Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined not by Dak, not by Doom, but by Gooey Fame. What is going on, my friend?
What's up? Oh, not much. I just got done recording a podcast about Alien versus Predator.
That's so weird.
I know.
Exact same thing happened to me.
I'm good.
This is take two. I bundled our intro for the podcast, but I'm gonna slice it together so no one ever knew anything happened. So there we go. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for joining me here today, Goo. This was a good shot that we're going to have.
You're gonna love it. Yeah, you're gonna love it.
So of course we're here to talk about Alien versus Predator. After a long hiatus, Alien in Review returns, and I'm super stoked about that. But we got some plugging to do before we get there. Yes. And we should start close to home, I think, because of course you and I we're on year five of Virtual Theater, the podcast about video game movies and the stories that shape them. So if you like these episodes that Goo and I do, and you're a fan of Alien in Review, you should go check out Virtual Theater because we got a lot of good stuff going on over there. We just finished Castlevania Nocturne. Although, actually, that's not true. Part 1, yeah.
We have part 2 coming, yeah.
Which
I wanted to say, I want to slip in one thing I forgot to say entirely. Go listen to our episode on the Doom movie.
Yes.
Because as I will mention, talking about all these things in my life kind of blending together, I went back and watched Doom again, and I'm like, okay, a team of Marines, go. It's aliens, you know? So, if you want to hear more of, if you end up liking this episode and want to hear us analyze very similar movies, we've got plenty of them over on Virtual Theater, including Doom.
And I would suggest Doom
Resident Evil.
Doom is an even crazier movie than AVP.
Yes, yeah,
I think so.
That's got a great cast. Let's say that.
Yeah,
but that's neither here nor there.
So I was mentioning earlier, Goo, since the last time in May of 2003, it's currently November of 2003. A lot's changed.
Yes.
Both in terms of your Metroid prowess and in terms of some projects that you've got going on. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, so you gave me Metroid Prime Remastered, and I finished that. I was playing that alongside. I was switching off between that and Turok on the Switch, and those games were very nice complementary games, and it kind of solidified my love for both of them. Actually, I kind of just think of them as like brothers now, almost, for some weird reason. Not a weird reason, but
I got to interject actually really quickly, because speaking of Virtual Theater, we did a review on a movie which you can find for free on YouTube. A movie called Turok: Son of Stone. This movie blew me away. It was so much better than it had any right to be. So you should check it out if you're looking for a good 90 minutes, 90 minutes. You could do a lot worse than Turok: Son of Stone.
So I finished Metroid Prime, and like I had said to you, I knew it was going to be great. It was even better than I thought it was going to be. And I don't even know I've played 3 Metroid games now to completion: Dread, Super, and Prime. And I think it's hard to even say what's the best. Like, they all are awesome in their own ways, and it's been so great. So I'm hoping to, I'm kind of switching. I don't really like to go like Metroid to Metroid. I like to bounce around. So I'm gonna go back though, because there's other ways I can get my hands on some of the other Metroid games and play them. So I'm going to be doing that. So I loved it. And and then on top of that, I have launched a new podcast since the last time I was over here. Then I get a little plugging in.
Yeah, let's plug. Let's plug.
Which is, speaking of Turok, it's called Flashback 64. And it's a show where we chronologically cover the Nintendo 64 library. Me and my partner McKenna and guests go through each game, talk about its release, talk about what was going on at the time. We have a little bit of history, a little bit of nostalgia, get kind of personal. We talk about our lives. We have guests on of varying like life and gaming experiences, and you know, we kind of get different perspectives on the games and what they meant to people, and it's been a really awesome, fun show. We've had Andy on, and Andy will be on again. So
please check it out. I've also been playing Doom for unrelated reasons. I was trying to say earlier before I fumbled our intro, but like Flashback, I think it's just like a really great project, and it's like the way I was trying to describe it earlier is like it's a lot more than like a podcast about N64 games. It's kind of like a podcast about like September 1996 or like what was going on in the world at that time. It's just like the anchor is kind of the game, but there's a kind of a snapshot of society almost, and you kind of have a view through, you know, like Goo, you grew up with N64, so you have a view of like your like nostalgic memories, stuff like that. You have some other like guests that are you know, offering maybe some insight. You have McKenna, who I think is like, as you mentioned, like didn't grow up with a lot of N64 games, so a lot of this is contemporary like to her. So it's like it's kind of like a cool like mixing pot of different like perspectives and stuff like that. It's a cool formula, and I think that like
for sure, you
know, as someone on the outside looking in, I think the like reaction and the success has been like really cool. So you should definitely check that out.
You should, and I honestly I want to I thank you for hosting it, which has been very helpful to us. But honestly, we've seen already some people from the Omega Metroid community drift into like our Discord as well, and show up. Like we had old
Minneapolis King,
show up some game nights and everything, and so it's I appreciate that, even though there is no Metroid on the Nintendo 64, which is a topic we will also be broaching with you specifically someday. I got to figure out like when the time is right, like when's the right time to pull the trigger on that. But I'm sure you guys have talk about it to no end, but we're gonna put our own spin on it and have you come on. And
you know, it's funny,
so I'll tease that.
Somebody asked me on I think it was a Great Metroid Area ranking, actually, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you must have covered a bunch of Metroid N64," and we've done one episode, but honestly we haven't really touched it a whole lot since that time. So I don't. Maybe we might have to recruit you back on for a follow up to that.
Ooh,
by the way, the Great Metroid Area ranking is our show over on Patreon.com/spnet, and that is stolen from this dude right here, the master of the Dungeon Dive, Mr. Gooey Fame. If you are looking for another podcast, go to YouTube, check out Gooey's Dungeon Dive. This guy's crazy. He's ranking every single dungeon in the Zelda series like an absolute madman. And
I've also been doing that for years now, too, like God. 3 years, yeah.
We're in Minish Cap right now?
We're about to wrap that up, and then, it's on to... your favorite, Twilight Princess. So,
hey, Twilight Princess has some great dungeons.
Yeah,
I'll give it that. It has some stinkers, go look, though, too.
I think if you like Twilight, like I always try to change a little bit about how we cover each game each time. Like, what's a good way, and like serve the game well, even if it's one I don't like. So go check it out if like you like Minish Cap, but also if you like Twilight Princess. I think I'm still working on ideas for it, but I think if you like Twilight Princess, there's going to be some fun stuff for you beyond just the cold, like, this is the dungeon analysis. We might do some other fun things on the side. So
there you go.
Look out for that.
All right. Well, we got a lot to get into here, Goose. So let's talk AVP. I feel like the true resurrection for this franchise was, it didn't come until 2012 with Prometheus, but like Alien was kind of in a weird spot in, and let's just call it the early to mid 2000s. Like, I think that, after Aliens, you had Alien 3 come out. It wasn't exactly loved by critics. You had Alien Resurrection come out, which I don't think was loved by critics or fans. So it's kind of like a weird spot for the series. And of course it's, they're without Sigourney Weaver, who has quite literally carried this franchise on her back for a long time. So I think they did what like a lot of video game franchises might do when they find themselves in that kind of weird predicament. And that's, let's get him as a spin-off. Let's get him something different. Let's get him something to kind of like get people talking about Alien again. Get him excited about Alien again. And I really think that that's what this movie is really all about. So, and I guess I would, I would offer this insight, and I don't know if you would agree with it or not, but I think, of every single Alien film, or like in the Prometheus franchise and the original Alien films, I think you'd probably be safe to say that this movie has the least in common with the Metroid series. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Well, and I say that just because, like, I think, like, of all the other movies that we've done so far, you can find some themes and you can find some, some other characteristics that you could go like, oh, this reminds me of that from Metroid, where I only came up with like a handful of connections here, and they're loose connections. But before I maybe go on with what those are, I don't know. Would you agree with that statement? Do you think that's a fair statement?
Like you think of the ones we've done so far? I think maybe. I think there's some unique things about this that I could maybe make a connection back to Metroid, like if I think I know enough. But I also think on a lot of, I don't know. I think on a lot of fronts, like on both of the Alien and Predator side of this movie, I think they're hitting a lot of like memorable moments and beats from the previous movies that it's like, I think it still feels close-ish enough because it is like, a lot of it is like, hey, remember this thing, the chest bursters, the face huggers, like it's very familiar situations. So it still fits for me.
And I don't mean to suggest that if you are a Metroid fan, that you won't like Alien versus Predator. I think you will, because I think like a lot of Metroid fans are probably Alien fans, and not necessarily vice versa, but I think a lot of Metroid fans are probably Alien fans. So like, if you like Alien, like you'll probably like this movie, but I do think like, we usually kind of gear up some of these Alien reviews and talk about some of the things that we pick out that, maybe reminds us of Metroid. And I don't really have a lot of those. So I would say if like you're looking for Metroid analysis in this movie, there's probably a lesser degree of that than in every other movie so far. Actually,
I was thinking about this earlier today, and I wouldn't say it's almost like a contradictory thought, but I was thinking about, so I spent the weekend, actually, one night we watched Predator, one night we watched Predator 2, and then Sunday night we watched AVP. So I've been doing that. I've been immersing myself in a lot of stuff related to Doom, because on Flashback 64 we're covering Doom 64. Doom also was a game. It actually started off, I think they were maybe planning to make it an Aliens tie-in game. So anyway, and that's why they have like Marines and stuff like. So I've been watching all of these and like playing all these games and different media that like there's like little Venn diagram crossovers between all of them. And like little inspirations. I'm watching the first Predator, and it's like a team of over-the-top Marines go in and get hosed by this alien. So I'm seeing like, oh, and like James Cameron inspired the part of this design of the Predators, and I'm seeing like all these overlaps, and I'm actually almost like just seeing. I just started to see everything as like a weird web. So it almost didn't feel detached from this. Didn't feel detached from it because it had the alien and the Predator in it, and they were doing the alien and Predator stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, is this for the Doom episode? Like, why am I watching this? Like, I started to forget why I was even watching it because of all the related media I've been like sinking my teeth into,
Right. I mean, they definitely share some common denominators. Like, there's the Venn diagram would be damn close to a circle, really. Like, if you think about it. So like I said, like I don't think that this movie has a lot to offer in terms of like analysis to Metroid, but I do have some thoughts that I want to get into before we talk about the movie. And I would say that like while like the first thing that comes to my mind, and actually you and I have talked about this over on Virtual Theater, where it's like I don't think that this has a lot in common with Metroid, but like man, is this ever like this is like the video game movie. Like it really is. Like it is such a video game movie.
We already actually, you and I have literally recorded ourselves talking about this movie before on Virtual Theater.
Yeah.
Even though it's not a video game movie. I guess there are AVP games.
There are actually
that predate this.
Yeah.
That's the thing is too. You were saying like they didn't know maybe what to do with the Alien franchise or maybe even Predator, but there was somewhat of a fan sort of hunger for this type of movie, so it makes sense that they would just whatever, let's go with this now, let's try something else. Maybe this could be the new series.
I agree, and I think it was a great move actually for where Alien and Predator for that matter were in terms of their franchises. It was that old saying the I'm gonna butcher how this goes, but the sum of the parts is not greater than the whole. I feel like the whole of this with Aliens and Predators made both bigger than they were separately. You know what I mean?
I could see that.
Which maybe sounds like a dumb thing to say, but
maybe before, I would say after the movie, because it probably garnered such a bad reputation. That
Oh well, that's a good point. I think after it, I think they kind of went their separate ways, and now Alien is in a much better spot, and I think Predator is in a much better spot. But I think before this movie, both of them were just kind of in the dregs a little bit,
which is weird. And I came for this a little bit more. I wanted to see it from the Predator point of view, because we had watched this before. No, well, not like that. We have discussed that it's Predator propaganda.
This is written by I wrote that down 8 times as I was making notes.
There was another part that really stood out. Anyway, before we get to that, I wanted to, because last time we watched it, I had seen recently all the Alien movies before it, and I was and I kind of had now, and I've watched them all again too, to talk with you. So I was I kind of want the context. This again, kind of what we're doing on Flashback, where I was I want to get the context, where is this coming from the point of view of the Predator series. Mm-hmm. And there's only been 2 movies, and I watched them both, and I was these both whip ass. These are both incredible movies. I think maybe part 2 is not viewed as well, but watching it back
at the time it wasn't, but now it's
it's so sick. So it's kind of interesting that it took was one. Not as it's just I think the Alien series garnered so much more positive reception based off of just the first 2 movies, that it took a little bit more to put it down to this state where it's what is this series, It took 2 weird movies. For Predator, it took one that people were on, and it's we're done with Predator.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you would agree with this, and I have not watched Predator in forever, and I don't know if I've ever seen Predator 2. If I have, I can picture some
dope
scenes, but I don't know if I've ever sat down and watched it start to finish. But my point is particularly with Predator 1, I think Alien and Aliens are both probably better movies than that, so they have a little bit more runway, I guess.
I'd agree, but I would say if I was ranking, if I was mashing both the series together and then ranking them, after Alien and Aliens, I would have Predator and Predator 2, and then anything else. I think they're really good, but I do see why they're I get it. They're not viewed as prestigious,
Off topic a little bit, but I really liked Predators actually with Adrian Brody. And
I don't
who else is it?
Topher
Grace, I think, was in there.
Topher Grace is in it. Yeah,
that was a sick movie. Actually, it was way better than it had any right to be. And of course, again, Goo and I have done an episode on this on Virtual Theater's Patreon. But Prey, That movie was awesome. Actually,
Yeah.
so I was kind of looking. I thought I found a trailer for Alien Romulus, and then it was like some crappy fan trailer, and I was kind of looking into Romulus because it's supposed to come out in August, but like nobody knows anything about the movie, and I was like, God, this is like some Hulu original movie. Like this is probably not going to be good. And then I was like, well, you know what? Prey is a Hulu original movie, and that movie was awesome. So maybe it's got some upside.
Prey is really the movie that it's now like. That was at the point where I feel like it was more comparable to how Alien was before AVP, where before Prey came out, it was like, what's going on with Predator? Like there was the Shane Black one that like was like not reviewed well at all, and now, but yeah. Anyway, that's a whole Predator.
Maybe we'll start Predator in review after we're done Alien in review. Yeah. That'd be cool.
Well, I think there's so much like I don't know. You can't really say it directly influenced anything from Metroid, but there is so much overlap between at least Predator and Aliens, like that they share. They're a year apart.
Degree of separation to it but still connected in a sense.
And there's hunters, right, in Metroid, right? There's the bounty hunters.
It's funny.
He's not like a hunter, but okay.
Funny you say that because I was gonna try and make this could be like a straw man argument a little bit, to be honest, but like I was like, well, the only Metroid game that I feel like AVP is even a little like is Metroid Prime Hunters, and I say that just because like Metroid Prime Hunters, it's kind of a schlocky game. It's like the single player is very I mean, it is what it is. It's half baked, right? Like the premise is like
7 out of 10 type game we're talking here. Or?
I mean, the single player campaign probably 7 out of 10 at best.
Yeah,
and people are gonna hate me for saying that, but I think it's true. The draw of that game was like the multiplayer kind of fights between hunters, which I kind of feel like is emulated a little bit here with like the draw of this movie is the fight between Alien and Predator. Obviously, that's what it's called. So in that kind of sense, like it gives me a little bit of Metroid Prime Hunter vibes. I mean, Hunters also has like a very almost like sort of similar story in the way that it kind of gets all of its principal players together, in that like in Metroid Prime Hunters, everybody picks up this distress or this beacon or whatever it is, and that's just like, if you want the ultimate power, come to this location. And it ends up being a trap. It's not true, but that's kind of what draws all these hunters to this location, where I mean this movie isn't exactly the same, but it's like this big beacon and like all these guys are drawn right to it. So I mean, of any Metroid game, I feel like Hunters is probably the one that bears the most resemblance to AVP, although I would also suggest that watching this movie, it kind of it almost made me feel like this was like the Super Smash Bros. Subspace Emissary type, where you just have like these like crazy cutscenes of like these characters that shouldn't be together, but they are, and it's awesome, and they're fighting, and it's just like, it doesn't have to make sense, it doesn't have to be like canon, but it's just cool, and you're just like, sweet, I'm down for this,
Yeah, I think watching it makes enough sense for me, like I like rewatching it. I think I like noticed a couple things that like kind of I didn't work for me that well. That really none of it had to do with like the canon or the plot or whatever. Like that was all that was all fine. It's missing for me just some very, I don't know, like more aesthetic things, I guess, of anything, because that's kind of what I'm tuning in to this movie to see, is like the cool Alien and Predator stuff that I like in the other movies, and to see them fight, which the fights are cool for sure.
I would agree. So I like this movie, but I think like upon rewatching it with a little bit more of a critical lens, I guess I'd say, I came away with 3 things that I think this movie is lacking, which kind of holds it down a little bit, which we don't have to talk about them now. We'll kind of get there as we get there in the movie, but yeah, I think if they built upon these things, it could have been like even cooler, or like even better. So
I actually think the lore, like, it was like, I think I said this back when we recorded our first one, but it felt like they were like they were like going for it to try to like come up with like a decent way that would make sense why these two things would interact, and at the time it could be conceived of as canon or whatever. And I like to me it felt like them not like, even though it does like kind of have a lot of major canon implications, it didn't feel like them trying to like just throw any old crap out. Like, it felt like them kind of like honestly trying to marry the two franchises together, you know. And I think that you said early on, this is like a video game movie, and I think it comes from the fact that it's a Paul W.S. Anderson movie. And I think we've seen in all of his movies that we've covered, like, even if he changes like the lore around and stuff like that, you can tell like the things he's like adapting and stuff, like, he thinks are awesome, and he wants them to come off that way. And so that's, for me, all it takes really is that, like, yeah, he's trying to make this fight between the alien and Predator seem awesome, or this Mortal Kombat, or Alice, or his wife in Resident Evil and Monster Hunter, like, and he thinks the worlds are cool, you know what I mean? And I think, like, you know, it's not always like 100% like he doesn't fully achieve it every time, but like, I can tell he's going for it, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, like, you look at the story of this movie, and like, this movie is clearly a spinoff, right? Like, it clearly, I think, is intended to exist outside of like the hard canon in both franchises. But like, you even look at this movie and it's like, nothing that happens here necessarily contradicts anything that I can think of in Alien. I don't know about Predator. I'm not as well versed in Predator, but like the only thing I can think of is maybe humans figure out the existence of the xenomorphs earlier, but if that even happens at the end of the movie, I'm not sure if it does.
Well, they all die, you know, like,
well, that's what I mean. But like, I don't know. I was thinking like, maybe she's going to like CNN and being like, I'll give you $100 billion if I'm wrong. But if I'm right, there's an alien queen at the bottom of the Arctic Ocean right now. Like, that I think it doesn't really, until they get to the later movies where they're like kind of revamping it. Like, I get why they're like, let's not take it, because it is like, what they come up with is it's like not kind of, it's like pretty dumb, I would say, but I would say it's not. I don't know. I feel like it works. Like,
here's a ridiculous sentence: I think it's dumb, but it's not stupid. Where it's like, it's silly, it's goofy, but like I said, it feels like, okay, that's like a fun way to, like, it's Alien versus Predator, you know what I mean? It's inherently a little goofy for sure.
I'll tell you this for free. I remember seeing Freddy versus Jason, which I also loved. That movie rocked.
Yes.
And I have no idea how they justified bringing them together, but I know that it was not as good as their justification for bringing Alien and Predator together. So, I mean,
yes,
take that for what you will.
I'll defend that, but that's another story. That reminds me of, though, one thing I feel like this movie is missing, because it's something that happens in Freddy vs. Jason, and it's something that happens in Resident Evil's, pretty much all of them, is there's no nu metal in this movie. I wanted at some point, when they're facing off, there to be like a Seven Dust song in here or something, or like, you know what I mean? I think there's Seven Dust in Freddy vs. Jason, and there's a Perfect Circle in Resident Evil.
I can't think of any music at all that was in this movie. I don't think there was any.
Yeah,
right? Like, yeah, they needed, like,
there was some.
They needed a banger playing with like the alien.
I wanted
Predator. Oh, yeah.
That was a fatal flaw for me.
Which is surprising, because Paul W. usually knows kind of what's up. He knows what sells.
Yeah, he had some heavy metal even as far back as Mortal Kombat. What's going on here?
A rare Paul W.S. Anderson miss. In this category. Okay, let's get this movie started here. Well, we don't have to go like beat for beat, but I took some notes about what was happening going on, and I think for the most part the story's pretty pretty breezy, pretty fun.
Yeah.
And one thing that I immediately wanted to shout out. So you kind of meet all of your cast of characters at the very beginning, all the various specialists and engineers and people that are going to assemble this dream team, and you know, we all know what's going to happen to these people on the roster. But I do love that playing the role of Nick Fury in this particular ensemble is a guy named Colin Salmon, who is... I just love this guy. I loved him in Resident Evil. I love him in this movie. You would know him as the guy in Resident Evil who gets the laser grid to the face.
Yes.
And he dies kind of early in that movie. And spoilers, but he dies kind of early in this movie. Actually, in a very intentionally same way. But
they don't.
I love this guy.
Like, they don't show it. I was kind of mad. Like, I want to see this guy get cubed again.
I want to talk about that later. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not wrong. They don't show it, but I do. I don't know.
I do like that guy. He was in something else we've covered too. I feel like I can't remember exactly what, but I feel like he like, I think he might be a Paul guy, you know?
I mean, I think so. Like, directors usually have their guys. I know that he was in a couple James Bond movies. I know that.
Oh, okay.
But I can't remember which ones they were. He's also been in Punisher Warzone.
Oh, he was... Right, because I remember what it was. It's like in Resident Evil Retribution, they cloned, you know, like Michelle and him. And so that's what I was thinking of. He comes back in that, which is that was so awesome.
I love that. Yeah, I don't know why. I just wanted to shout out Colin Salmon for being a cool dude who always seems to just see kind of, you know, he can't stick around too long in a movie before he meets a terrible fate. But I wanted to give him his due. Anyways,
he deserves better. Yeah.
So we're recruiting all these specialists, all these people that are going to be going on this mysterious expedition, and they recruit a scout named Lex, and she's kind of our main character here. And I know I was going to talk about it later, but I think I'll just talk about it now. Actually, I think this is where the movie's first flaw kind of comes in, because I think Lex is fine. The actress who plays her does a fine job. It's just like she's not... I don't know. She's not... Well, I mean, she's not Sigourney Weaver. She's not Michael Fassbender. She's not Schwarzenegger. She's not Danny Glover. She's just... She doesn't... I felt like she didn't have kind of that same leading person quality. Which I guess makes sense, because like this is clearly more of an ensemble movie, but I think, like, I don't know, I guess I was just kind of like,
so are those other movies.
Yeah, you're right, and like, but they have that like clear star among them, right? Like the one that you could kind of, I don't know, like rally behind, I guess, in a sense, and whatever. Like I don't know, I think Lex was fine, but the whole time I'm watching this, you brought it up, I'm just like, dude, it seems like Paul W. You should just cast his wife. Right?
Yeah, like, true. She would have been sick.
She would have been awesome.
I actually liked the actress and the character and stuff. I had for me, what stood out more, that was bugging me more, was that, because she had a similar kind of Ripley thing where she knows like really what they should be doing, but no one's listening to her. And I thought she did a pretty good job, like, with that. Obviously, like, Sigourney Weaver is like a mega star. It's kind of hard to live up to that. But I think that would have been totally fine. But I felt like the actual like crew they assembled, like that's where it's like this, like you have both in Aliens and Predator, you have these team of like these really memorable, like ridiculous Marine type characters, and there's a couple people I like. The guy you just mentioned I like, but pretty much everyone else in the ensemble, well, and Weyland obviously, but like everyone else, it was like they were very like bland to me, and that stood out more, because I feel like those characters need to be like, you need to, like, you don't know much about like Bill Duke or whoever, Jesse Ventura and Predator, But when they die, like you get such a sense of their character because of how they're just so like memorable and over the top, I guess you could say. Whereas like a lot of these guys were just kind of like Bottle Cap guy was like, he was not doing it for me.
You know what? That's a good point, actually. And I think if you had a more like developed or a more like, I don't know, a cast of characters that you cared a little bit more about, you would be fine with Lex as your lead, because like she is likable enough. Like I don't dislike her, but I think that if you don't have that, then I feel like you need someone like really charismatic and like really like just rocking like a rock star in that lead role. And I don't know that she quite got to that level for me. This is like a minor critique. I would say it's probably my least of the three. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think you're probably right. I mean, like every single character is like so paper thin. Which I mean, like whatever, right? Like they're just here to get slaughtered by aliens and predators. But
if they're like memorable, it's okay. Like I think of even in Paul does this in his other movies too. Like he had this sort of like Resident Evil is kind of like trying to be like Aliens, but with zombies, and it's trying to be like this. It's like this movie, but even there, like some of I think it's a budget thing, and like the actors, they don't. It's not like they get the greatest people. I don't want to diss anyone in particular, but like, you know what I mean. But
I know what you mean.
Even in Resident Evil, you had like Michelle Rodriguez, who was so awesome in that. And you mentioned Alice. Obviously, I like Mila Jovovich a lot, but like, yeah, here I get it. It's sort of a. They're not getting.
It is
the same
what it is.
Tier
they have a
actors,
small budget. I'm assuming, yeah. But
I feel like they still could have gone for it. They could have gone harder. I think, even if it was worse. I don't know. I don't know.
I think so. I agree with you, and I want to save my second point actually until we get there. But I agree with you, and I think there's something that could have tied it together. But let's get this movie going here. So we have all these guys. They're all together. They're all meeting. They're in the Arctic, by the way. Which there's a sick shot of this boat like crushing through the ice and stuff like that. I thought that looked very cool.
That looked awesome. You asked what doesn't like. There's nothing that really like doesn't fit with Predator, but one thing that McKenna mentioned, and I think with the benefit of Predator is we don't know much about like the Predator society after Predator 1 and 2. It's very you don't know much. It's just you're really fighting a guy, and it blows up at the end. So we don't know. But they do figure out that like, oh, they prefer like hot environments, like the jungle, and they're in LA in the second one, like where it's warmer, like, so McKenna was like, why would they be in Antarctica? But they show they have other pyramids and those get blown up, and it, we don't know. There might be ice predators.
I think there is, man, because like in Predators, there's all these different predator factions.
Right. So,
plus you got in Prey, you got the Predator. I mean, this dude's hanging out in Calgary, Alberta in the 1700s. That place ain't tropical.
Yeah. So and even in the different movies, like they often show them like, oh, this thing you thought was true about the Predator, it's not, and they fool people with that. So yeah, anything could happen with the Predators.
We get I love me a good team debrief scene, and we get a great one here. Which actually they almost use the exact same scene in Prometheus, which we'll get to at some point. But yeah, just a good old fashioned team meeting where Lex kind of asserts herself as like the leader of the bunch, and she's the only one with sense enough to say like, oh hell no, I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous. But eventually it's kind of guilted into going, which too bad.
Yeah, they're like, well, everyone's gonna go, and they'll probably die if you don't come. So, and she's like, all right, I'll go.
So the premise here is that the Weyland Yutani Corp has found a large heat signature in the Arctic tundra, and it's like 2,000 miles or kilometers or whatever under the ice, which is outrageous. And they've and they've done some monitoring, and it's a big mofo pyramid, which is so awesome. I love this idea. Like, it's kind of schlocky, but like it's so great.
It's like, absolutely schlocky because it's got that they've got the pyramid down there.
Yeah,
they see that right away, and this is jumping ahead a little bit, but they see the like, oh, it's Cambodian, it's Egyptian, and it's Mexican. Like, oh, all the pyramid. It's got that like same trope of like, oh, the ancient aliens taught people how to build, but it makes it just even more schlocky because it's like all the cultures, they taught them all.
Yeah.
I guess that's part of that myth too, but like I don't know, it's so ridiculous, but okay, I'm like, sure, why not? Yeah.
I eat that stuff up. I love it. It's like, it's schlocky, it's kind of tropey, but man, it works for me like every time. So I'm loving life here.
You have those ridiculous scenes later where they're showing the flashback of like the pyramid stuff. I was like, I love
that too. I want to talk to you about someone in this movie who actually I thought was the best character, and his name is Bishop Weyland, and
yeah,
it is like really interesting, the character portrayal of Weyland here, because I mean, you say Weyland Yutani or just Weyland to any Alien fan, and the immediate connotation is like evil corporation or evil CEO willing to expend human lives, willing to, cutthroat. And I don't know that that's necessarily the characterization of Weyland in this movie. Yes, he's telling everybody that, like, there's significant risk and that they may die. But he's very upfront about it. And he's just like, listen, if you want to go, you can go. He was, like, dare I say, kind of like a gentleman in this movie, and brave as well, which is not like attributes that you can say about, I don't think, any other Weyland in any of the other movies.
Yeah,
did you kind of get that same kind of vibe from him?
Yeah, it was more of a like, his motivation was like his legacy. He wants to like discover something great. Because he's dying or whatever. But I don't know. I felt like there should have been a little bit more of a darker edge to him a little bit too. Like, I feel like he was a little bit like, he was almost kind of one note. Like, I like the portrayal, and obviously, he's a legend just for the series and everything. And I love his performance in general, but I think, the character, like, especially because of the way he goes down, I'm like, I feel like that would have been a better ending if he had a little bit more of a mean streak. You know what I mean? Like, just something a little bit more.
Yeah, like I can see it. But I don't know. I think I was so, I mean, first of all, I was just charmed to see, like, Lance Henriksen back in the Alien franchise. So like that immediately, and for anybody who doesn't know, obviously he plays Bishop in Aliens. So that I feel like kind of warmed my heart a little bit. But then, like, he's just, like I said, like, it's just such a, I don't know, it's such like a subversion of what I expected, that even if he was kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to say plain, but you know what I mean. Like, even if he didn't have like a whole lot, he was just kind of like your benevolent CEO. Maybe not benevolent, but like, he was just like not an awful villain. Yeah, he wasn't he wasn't like the worst guy in the world, to put it that way. Even
couple things,
I just thought that was like a cool subversion, so I like that.
What I liked about him, one minor thing that I didn't notice the first time we watched, is he's sitting at his desk and he's holding his pen and he's doing he does the little knife thing
with his hand
to his hand, and I was like, oh my god. But Bishop is his middle name, I think it is. And one thing that I thought was interesting is, because his character is kind of like concerned about his legacy. Like, I think there could have been more about that, as they do have, what other movie has like the Weyland character? Was it Prometheus?
It's Prometheus, yeah.
and there's something there. I think that does it a little bit better. Like the character, I feel like the characterization is a little bit better there for that type of character. But the idea that, like, so it sort of implies that like the Bishop android is based off of him, which is kind of a trope you see in other things of people creating like android, like that happens in Star Trek with like Data, like and they kind of get into like then the psychology of his creator and why he created an android like exactly in his image, like that looks exactly like him, basically another version of him. And I think it doesn't get into it in this movie, but it makes you think of that sort of concept of like and I think with the character of like who's concerned about his legacy and stuff like that could be a very interesting thing to sort of like want to psycho analyze a bit. And it's just interesting to think about then, like if this were to be canon, like the implications of like Bishop being based on him, you know, and like him wanting to, I don't know, live forever or something. I don't know.
I feel like that's cool. I didn't even think about that. That's kind of like a cool ingredient to throw into the plot. That kind of makes me like this character a little bit more, actually.
I think it's cool because it feels like it could just be like a little Easter egg, and it works as just that, but it gets you thinking about. Yeah. It's a case where I think the lore is actually kind of cool because it sort of informs the character without, like I said, like I don't think they really hammer that hard in the movie or anything. Maybe it's better that it's it's subtle.
and I think that's like the great quality that a spin-off can do is like stuff like that, where it's like, is this just an Easter egg? Is it just a reference? Is there something maybe a little bit more to that? That's kind of like a unique attribute that spin-offs can achieve to kind of get you talking about something that might just be otherwise like kind of, I don't know, not a big deal. So I like that. So yeah, I don't know. I was down with Weyland in this movie, which is not something I was expecting to say. And I think I remember saying that when we recorded last year about AVP as well, but I thought that it was worth mentioning again. So yeah,
it probably is the most interesting of them. But yeah,
not that that's saying much, but I mean, you know, take it for what it's worth. Our team is in the remotest of remote places in the Antarctic, and they find is it the Arctic or the Antarctic? Actually, I don't remember. Whatever.
They're in Antarctica. Yeah, there's penguins.
Yeah, there is. So they find some town. Actually, it's an abandoned town, complete with houses, like everything.
Whaling station or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and wouldn't you know, they find that somebody somewhere has already drilled 200 kilometers deep. But there ain't no drilling equipment, and the drilling expert there is just like, this is more advanced than we could ever imagine. I don't know who could have done this. So I mean, right away, we got some aliens.
We know. Yeah, we got a good ice tube going.
Oh, what a classic moment! A classic ice tube moment. Probably the second greatest ice tube moment that I can think of. I
will say later, when we're coming out of the ice tube, I was cackling. I was like, yeah, I'll talk about it a little bit more later. But
you know, speaking of penguins, by the way, that absolute jabroni with the flash camera, he's supposed to be like an engineer or something like that. And this dork like breaks so Lex lays out 3 rules, and this guy breaks the first rule like immediately. He's like, yeah, I can go somewhere by myself as long as I got my camera. And he finds a penguin, which is a great gag. But I was just like, come on, jabroni. Jeez Louise.
You gotta have people acting dumb, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, we're going down into the hole, and they find the pyramid, and this pyramid looks sick. It looks so cool. I think that there's just something about a good pyramid, you know?
So you were saying this is the movie that feels like the least like Metroid, but watching it, I was like, this is the out of all of the games or movies we watched so far, this one would make the best Metroidvania style game.
Right? Well, that's what I mean when I'm like, it may not be a lot like Metroid, but man, is it an awesome video game movie. Like every 10 minutes it's like a roguelike. Like the whole thing resets every 10 minutes.
Yeah, true.
It's awesome.
There's something to like, and this is before, because until now there hasn't been a movie that's tried to like explore the origins of the alien. And so I think they saw that it's like, oh, this is a good opportunity to like tie our franchises together, because they both have vague lore, but it sort of has a thing like not like Prometheus exactly, but that thing where it's like it's sort of leaning into the lore and like the old architecture and stuff like that. That makes me think a little bit of like Metroid, when you're finding like old ruins of a former civilization, you know.
Yeah,
it's got a little bit there.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, you're spot on. That's a good point. I would say so. I have a second critique of this film that I think is an appropriate time to bring up right now. I wish that like there was some cooler lighting inside the pyramid so that you could see all of the stuff better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought it was decent, like overall. Like they did a good job of it seeming like cold and dank, I guess. But like it got that across. I felt like when they were, in the final fight, when they're back up on the land, it reminded me a little bit of when we were watching Rampage, and it's just like, oh, it's like gray and cloudy out here. Like, what's going on? A little bit.
Yeah.
At least like there was some like, I don't know, there was like legible, like it had a cool look and stuff like that, and you could kind of make out like what's going on and the action and stuff, and it looks slick in ways like Paul movies they're very like they try to go like the sleek designs and stuff. So I thought, overall like the sets and stuff look cool, but I could see the lighting and stuff like that.
That was my only, like, I think the sets all were fine. They were fine to like really good. I think it's just like the pyramid. I thought, like, to your point, like there's so much detail, or at least it looks like there's so much detail, but like you have kind of a hard time seeing it. And like I mean, I don't know what their in-universe like justification would have been, but I don't know, like maybe like get some like cool green mood lighting in there, or like red, like get some torches or something. You know what I mean? Like something to kind of make it look a little bit more alive and a little bit less like, I don't know, sterile. And I get that's probably the point, but I don't know. I guess I guess I understand why they didn't. I just didn't really like it.
Yeah, I think if we're talking, I have the other fatal flaw for me is it's more of an aesthetic thing. I mentioned the marine stuff that is in both the franchises that should have carried over, like the ridiculous Marines. But also, one thing I noticed now, having watched Predator, is in both the Predator movies, one, there's a lot of sparks and explosions. There's a lot of explosions that make really cool sparks, and it looks awesome. Like they have amazing. That I think that could have been a good way to do that in this, where it's a dark movie, but then you have these crazy, booms and like things that light it all up and stuff, and that happens a lot in Predator. Just some amazingly cool looking shots where you have just like this explosion, the sparks come out. Great look. And then two, also in both those movies, they have many crazy wide shots of people falling for a long time, whether it's off of a cliff in the jungle or off of a building. And I'm like, and those are always like, oh man, not enough people falling off of stuff in this movie. I wanted to see, I guess they're inside and it's like, there no high ceilings, and like, honestly, not a lot of real looking locations compared to the other Predator movies, but I needed to see some big dives, some big stunts. Where was that?
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's mostly because it's an alien and a predator fighting, and like the human part isn't really.
We'll get there. I have some thoughts on that. I'll shout out the sacrificial chamber though. That was a cool room.
Yeah, like I think that where they find the guns is like a cool.
Yeah.
That was like a video game.
So I had a question for you. One thing that I just wanted to pick your brain about and see if you could educate me. So basically at the end of this movie, all of the evidence of this pyramid of the predators of the alien is gone, right? However,
that's what it seems like, yeah.
Like, I'm wondering, like, does Weyland still get credit for finding this? Because I can't see him not, like live streaming this, right? Like, back to a base or something? Like, there's... I don't know. I'm not buying that, like, it's just, all the evidence is gone. Because and I brought this up at this point, because in the movie, right about now, he's kind of talking about his legacy, he's got cancer, he's about to die. He says that he really needs to go and find something for himself. And, everyone congratulates him because they found this pyramid and it's awesome. And I'm just like, surely you're like, someone's getting this, right? Like someone's got this on tape.
If they got the readings, someone else. That's why I assume like, they don't have like Marines going down there because it's like a secret. He wants it to be like his discovery, but like I would presume some other agency or something in the world detected this. It's best to not think about it too much.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. The next scene, we got the captive alien queen. This was awesome.
Yeah.
This is a great scene. She looks so slimy and gross. Ah.
And it's like unfreezing. That looked awesome. A lot of the alien. This is like some of the coolest aliens like we've seen. Not all of them, but some of them look pretty sweet, I think.
Well, I mean, like, think about it. You didn't really have any traditional aliens in Alien Resurrection, right?
Yeah.
Did you? I could be wrong about that, actually. But even so, let's just say that from 1997, when that movie came out, to, 2007, roughly? 2004?
2004, yeah. Because it was 100 years since 1904. When the village disappeared.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's an important piece of lore. Actually, it is. But anyways, my point is that, like, the technology's kind of advanced a little bit where you can have, like, a more fluid alien. Because, when we did our first Alien in review, and Alien's one of my favorite movies, but you're limited in how, like...
Yeah.
The alien
well, and if move. That fits the style of that movie too. Like you don't really need. It's actually better because you can't. It's more suspenseful. But in this, it's like this is primarily an action movie where we want to see two monsters fighting. So it's gone are the subtle, hidden in the darkness aliens.
Yes, absolutely.
We got CG bad boys and some non. There's a good mix, I think, of the effects, and I think it overall looks good for being a budget movie, Yeah,
I mean, lighting aside, like I think that the movement and the fight scenes and stuff all look great. Okay, so we're about 45 minutes into this movie right now, and we saw some jabronis get killed by invisible predators, but it was just kind of like off-screen kind of stuff. I don't even count that. So now we're finally kind of getting to it. The aliens are awake. The team has stolen the predators' weapons, so they kind of got to go in with, just their fists and their melee weapons, not their guns to fight them.
That's a big reason. That's where the sparks are coming from. We need those guns. They need
them. They need them, but they don't have them. Yeah. But I do think it's 45 minutes in. The movie is an hour and a half, so it's like half the movie. And I get that they want to. To get you there. But it does kind of take a little while to finally get some, like, I'm a bloodthirsty bastard. I wanted to see people, like, going at it, like, immediately. Or some humans getting their heads chopped off or something like that. So it does take a little bit of time to get going. But eventually, we do get there. The team finally gets all split up. And now the kills are coming. That first dude who gets surrounded by, he's in, like, the tunnel, and the xenomorph pulls off the velociraptor from Jurassic Park, where, like, he's looking at the one far away, but then the other one comes in from the side. Yeah. I was just like, oh, damn.
Yeah, there's some pretty good kills here, for sure. Like, even before the predators are fighting them.
Yeah. You know what? So actually, before I get to my point, so I talked about Colin Salmon earlier. He dies again. He gets predatored. He gets the I don't know what it is, like a net on him that just tightens up until it smooshes him. It cuts like into him.
We don't see that. We should have seen that.
I will say this. I think the biggest flaw of this movie is it's a pretty tame movie, right? And I know that that's why they made AVPR, and I think that was a lot of people's critique about this movie. But like, I don't know, like I didn't need like gratuitous blood and gore and stuff like that, but like it kind of would have been cool to like see a few more of these people like die, you know, like
yeah,
like I would say like a good portion of the deaths occur kind of off screen.
Yeah, I will say like, especially coming from Predator, like I mean they usually are like kind of at times subtle about it, but like, you know, you've got him like tearing people's, he's doing the Sub-Zero fatality to people, you know, and so I'm like, yeah, I want to see some fatalities. You know, we get good Predator on Alien action for sure, but that obviously because it's like they're a little bit alien and stuff. Some of those moments do hit pretty hard and look cool. I like the green Predator blood, you know, coming out and getting all over. But that's more of like, you know, when you see the green blood in video games, you know, you're like, well, where's the red blood? You know, turn the red blood coat on.
A little bit. So I don't know. I think that's like kind of it's kind of like a running theme throughout this movie about how the fights are kind of like pedestrian, with one exception. I think there's like one sick fight in this movie, which is obviously the first Alien versus Predator like actual showdown. But all that stuff I think is pretty cool. That stuff's cool.
I think they do a good job of like with some of those human kills. I kind of like the subtlety because they just do a good. It's like they're kind of playing the hits a little bit, so you know like what happens when you know, the face huggers show up. You know, we know now how the alien thing work. We've seen it so many times. So like, I think they do a good job of like, you know how this goes. So like, you just know what's going to happen to them. And it's like, oh dang, you know, I
would have been down for someone getting crunched, you know, in like the pyramid. They kind of tease that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like some serial killer on this show, but like, I feel like it would have been like kind of cool just to like, you know, instead of like the alien or the predator getting the kill, it's just like squashed by, you know, the pyramid.
I did like there's like a scene where like the face huggers jump, and it's very like Paul W. Sanderson trying to do like the Matrix style shot where they're like the badass face hugger jump. Like you never think of them as like, whoa, sick, but like even he's like, yeah, let's make him look like, shoot him like Mila Jovovich flying through the air. But it's the face huggers.
It is so good, too, because the Predator is just like, he's not even looking. He's like, he slices it with his little sun gimmick that he's got. It's so good.
I love the sun gimmick, yeah.
All right, so we finally get some Alien versus Predator action here. And if you can't tell, I'm Team Alien. So there's 3 Predators that are in this pyramid. And there are a whole heck of a lot of aliens. And so that one of the aliens gets one Predator right away. He just stabs him right through the chest. This guy's done. And then we see this absolute wicked fight scene between the alien and the Predator. If you're not going to watch this movie, just go Google this fight scene because it's awesome.
It's awesome.
So good. I forgot who won, actually. I was just like, damn, who's coming away with the victory here? Who's building momentum?
Well, they start with 3 Predators, and they get down to just the one guy, and then like they get down to like one alien. Basically, they gotta like team up with, but yeah. So they do a good job. It's like 50-50 booking for a while.
Well, not necessarily, because the aliens come out to a 2-0 lead originally.
Oh, true.
Well, because the alien gets the first guy through the chest, and then at the end of like this awesome match between the alien and Predator, the alien pulls out the W and he's chomping on this on this predator. But then you see, so actually the last predator has a name. I didn't know this. His name is Scar, because he's got like a like a scar on his head from the alien acid DNA. So yeah, he Scar actually just snaps the alien's head right off. It's pretty sweet. Very cool.
Yeah. I think it's a natural, it makes sense within the lore, because in both the Predator movies, like, they show their scenes where, like, they're understanding that the Predators are, like, intelligent beings, you know? So it, like, makes sense from the human's perspective, and for the story of the movie, I like it, too, like, that, like, oh, let's go with the one that's not just, like, a bloodthirsty animal. But I do agree, it is, like, a little too nice to the Predators.
Dude, okay. So we're at the point of the movie now where we learn about the backstory here. And let me ask you, if after I'm done describing what happens here, if you think that the Predators are the good guys in this scenario.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
all
exactly.
Right? So this is what's going on. I think every 100 years or so, the Predators come and they as a like a passage or a ritual rather for new up and coming warriors, they have these Predators go hunt these aliens. Now the Predators are breeding these aliens using human sacrifices throughout the ages. So they expected these humans to just sacrifice themselves, because obviously you need the face hugger before you can, you know, become an alien. They captured a queen, so they have this queen in captivity laying eggs, and if their Predators fail to defeat the aliens, they nuke the entire civilization.
Yeah, which they've done before.
They've done it before, and they'll do it again.
Even without, like, obviously the human factor is big, but even that, like, if you're thinking from the alien side or the Predator side, it's like, well, the aliens are just being bred to, like, be killed by these Predators. So you kind of even feel bad for them, even though, like, yeah. Actually, oh, yeah, you just kind of feel bad. Like, never thought I'd say that, but I kind of feel bad for the alien.
I feel bad for them. They didn't ask for this. They just want to get their queen out of there and go back to LV-426 and do their thing.
Yeah.
You know, like... Yeah. So yeah, you tell me if the Predators are the good guys, because they're from this point on, like, they're certainly positioned as the good guys. That's for sure. This movie was written by a Predator.
Well, it does make sense, and like their reasoning is sound. Like, the enemy of you can't really reason with the alien, I guess, or like maybe they could have written an alternative. You know, like that's how the propaganda gets into you. But
you know what, I do like that explanation. And so what Gooey's talking about is I think we're down to like two people now, Lex and someone else, and she's like, hey, I'm gonna give the Predator its gun back so it can destroy the aliens, because I'm gonna pick a side. Which, I mean, like, what else are you gonna do at that point, right? It makes sense. Yeah, and like that's like basically like, because they see like, oh, these guys can actually like reason and stuff like that. So yeah, it makes sense. And like, I think they do a good job with her and the Predator and Scar, like getting her to convince him and stuff like that. And like the way they actually build up their friendship, I think, or maybe friendship's not the right word. I think they do become friends by the end, but I think they do a good job of having them hit all the right steps. But it is just funny, like, to kind of portray a Predator that way, because yeah, they do, like, even going back to their previous movies, like, as a concept, like, they suck, like, and they even say it in this movie, they say it in Predator 2, but they are essentially like those guys who go and like shoot lions and stuff like that, and like elephants, you know, like those type of assholes. So like it's funny to like then be like that's the guy we're teaming up with, you know. Well, and not only that, but like they legitimately suck too, because they're rookies for lack of a better term. Yeah, I don't think they send like their best of the best. Like it's like they send the young up and comers that need to prove themselves as warriors, you know? I mean that's their whole gimmick, right? Like they send the ones that, I don't know, I don't know what you do after you pass the assignment, but I don't think you come back and do it again. It's like the Hunger Games. Once you've won, you're out.
The one key piece of Predator propaganda I notice is in the first two Predator movies, both the main characters have a line where they say to the Predator, "You're one ugly mother, you know what." And in this, she says it to an alien. And I could totally see the Predator writing room where they're like, and you know that's that part where they say the mean line about us? Yeah, we're going to say it about the alien instead.
Let me tell you something, Goo. I was ready at the end of the movie when the Predator took off its helmet. He has his big mandibles going everywhere. I was ready for Lex to just be like, "You're beautiful," and give him a big French kiss or something.
I thought they should have kissed. Yeah,
this was written by a Predator. Goddamn Predator.
Predator is the hero, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. All right, so we're at the point now where Lex gives the Predator back its gun, and what a difference this makes. Holy cow. This Predator is mauling aliens like nobody's business now, which really makes you think they should have just done this from the very beginning. But Gooey, then I'm thinking to myself, okay, another black mark against these so-called predators here. But if the predators are such upstanding, willing to make deals with humans, why did they kill all the guards outside in Antarctica for just standing there doing nothing? Like, why not just like sneak past them and go do your business?
Because before this, they made the point of like they're mad because they're in their pyramid, like touching their stuff. You know, stop touching my things. Put my gun back. You know, so they're like that's why they're mad at the humans. And I think that actually kind of made sense because honestly, actually, like in the other Predator movies, like they don't even like if they don't go after someone typically who's not like a good mark. You know, they're looking for someone like a hunter would want, like the buck with the biggest horns. You know, they're looking out for guys like Arnie, or in Predator 2, they're seeing Danny Glover do his cool cop moves, and they're like, that's what I want. So it's not that they like pity them, but it's like, oh, that wouldn't be a good mark. But here, I think it's specifically they're like, these people are like, they're up in our stuff, like messing with our stuff. I guess they want the people to be down there.
I don't know, man, because the one Predator, he's about to slay Weyland, and he kind of uses his Predator vision to see like the cancer cells inside of him, and he's like, you know what? Yeah. Nah, yeah, I'm not. You're okay. And then Weyland actually pulls off a super badass move. He's like, "You will not turn your back on me." Torches him with a flamethrower.
That's awesome. That's why I wish he had a mean streak or something, because it felt like, man, he let you live and you're gonna torch him up. You know, I would have been.
I was cheering in that, dude. I was like, this guy is the best guy in this movie. Like, he's awesome.
I was like, you messed it up. You messed it up. He's gonna let you live.
I mean, what else? I mean, an alien was gonna get this guy. He was winded. Like, you know, it's not like he was gonna do much.
He was ready. He was ready to die. He has his bishop back up ready to go anyway. So
yeah. Yeah. So this predator is mauling aliens everywhere, and a fantastic scene where they kill an alien and the predator pulls off the alien's skull and like makes a shield of it to give to Lex, and like has its tail as a spear. This is so good.
And you're like, dang, this predator is not so bad after all.
Well, that's what the movie wants you to believe.
Yeah. Well, and that's cool too. One thing that's worth pointing out is this has been teased all the way back to in Predator 2. At the end, Danny Glover ends up on a ship and he sees like his wall of trophies or whatever, and he's got all the skulls, and he has a xenomorph skull on his little trophy wall. And so even as far back as that, they were teasing it. But I guess he's making it into a shield, but it made me think of that. Yeah, it is cool. That. Yeah, there's different skulls. There's like human skull, and then there's one that looks like an alien T-Rex, and you're like, what is that? You know? Yeah, it's sick.
Hell yeah. One of the predators in well, Predators, the movie Predators, has like the same xenomorph like blades on his little helmet. Very cool.
Oh yeah, see, it's canon still.
So here we go. The Queen escapes. The Queen alien is free. Actually, escapes is the wrong word. All the other aliens bust out the Queen by. This looked painful as hell. Actually, they were using their own blood to break the lock, like locking her.
Yeah, that
Dang.
was intense. That was brutal.
That was brutal. But I guess you got to do what you got to do to be free.
The nasty goop sack comes off. Ugh.
Oh, dude, that damn thing. Ugh. So yeah, we're in the final stretches now. So the Predator lays a bomb in the pyramid, and the pyramid's about to go sky high. So the Predator and Lex, they're teaming up. They're running as fast as they can out of this pyramid, and they make it out and up the tube, up the ice tube.
This is
in
where
a great scene.
I was losing it because it's like this is where I was like they're running. This is when they're on the surface too, but they're running side by side. There's explosions behind them. It looks like a shot from a buddy cop movie. And then they're going up the tube together. And I was like, this is so awesome. Like she is like bonding so hard with this. Like by the end when they're giving her props or whatever, like you buy it. Like, yeah, she really went through it with them.
I literally thought they were like gonna just passionately start kissing at the end of the movie.
After going through something like that, how could you not?
I don't know, man. It seems... she seemed especially distraught because Bottle Cap guy died, who they were kind of hitting it off. So, I mean...
Yeah, their crazy chemistry. It was their charisma lit up the screen. Yeah.
You know, but then, like, back to my point, though. Like, Bottle Cap guy died. Was he the best death in the movie? Like, the best human death in the movie? Because, like... Basically, she has to shoot him because he's about to have a chest burst. There's just there's not a lot of cool deaths in this movie.
Weyland's because of the
you're right.
Moment.
Yeah, you're right. That was pretty sick. That was pretty cool. Anyway, so they're up in the Arctic, and the Queen has followed them. So now we're gonna have one last showdown, and the Predator and Lex work together to, in fact, defeat the Queen alien, the Queen xenomorph. They, what do? They basically tie her to some kind of object that's sinking into the Arctic Ocean.
It's like a building, essentially, that has, like, a frame they can tie. She's got her chains still, like, on her that she's, like, chained down with, so they, like... She, like, ties just, like, a little knot, and that's, that's
like,
fine.
To my point... There is evidence of this happening if, like, somehow, some way, Lex can be like, we gotta go scuba diving in the Antarctic Ocean.
Well, if she even gets back, I don't know how she gets back home.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. Yeah.
That's what's so funny is she's out there with, like, no coat on. She, like...
Her coat got acided.
She would die in, like, 10 minutes or whatever. And the Predators come down to give her props, and then it's like, I would be like, can I get a ride or something?
Yeah. Good point.
That's why I think she just died out there, and no one ever followed up on it.
She should have kissed our guy. Maybe they would have taken her with them. Although actually, probably not because he died. He dies. He gets a Queen alien tail right through the heart, and he succumbs to his wounds, but not before. Giving Lex some marks on her cheeks, like the own marks on his helmet, which is like it's like the initiation. It's like you're an honorary Predator.
Yeah, so it's an evolution. In Predator, he just kills it. Predator's an a-hole. He sucks. In the second one, he is too, but like they have a battle and they take him out, and other Predators show up and. They don't talk, but you presume they're like, you know what, that guy sucked anyway. Here's a trophy, and then they just leave. They actually give Danny Glover the flintlock pistol that the girl in Prey has. Little Easter egg there. Yeah. Cool. So we don't know how they got it from her. So maybe that's bad. That's bad news. But anyway, in this they take it even further, where they're like, the one guy, the Predator, is now like, we like him. And he gives her the markings, and the other ones, they don't just give her some old gun. They give her like his cool like alien weapon, which seems like they're not even worried about people finding out about them. Apparently, you know. But maybe they're like, you know what, you're gonna die out here, so it's fine.
She's like, do you got a code instead? Like,
I don't know. Like they go off into space, and I'm like, just like, how hard would it be to drop her off like anywhere?
I don't know. I guess maybe that goes against the what the benevolent predators are capable of doing. So Scar. So they actually take the dead body of Scar the Predator onto the ship. They being the so let me back up actually, because if out of context it probably doesn't make sense. So once Lex and Scar the Predator have defeated the alien queen, and they're about to make out, and they're in the Arctic. She has no coat, and he dies, and she's just like, oh boy. Then out of nowhere, the big Predator ship and all the Predator fleet shows up, and they're like, you're one of us, good job. And they bring Scar's body onto their ship, and they leave Lex presumably to freeze to death. Yeah. But the cool thing about what happens next is that Scar the Predator, actually, when he was fighting the xenomorph earlier and he killed it so stylishly, he actually got facehuggered. Although you don't actually see it, you just see the facehugger jumping towards it, and then the camera cuts. But by God, his chest bursts, and he's got a Pred alien inside of him, and that's actually what they're called, Pred aliens.
Predalien. Oh yes,
Predalien.
and it comes out, and it's got the mandible thing. Yeah, that was sick.
I can't wait for AVPR. You know, AVPR is the only Alien movie I've never seen, actually.
I've never seen it. So it sounds like it's horrible. That's what people say, but you know
that's what I've heard.
I want to see what happens. I'm interested.
I know that the Predalien is a player in that movie. So I mean, that alone, I feel like, is worth the price of admission. You know?
Yeah, for sure. I gotta. You know, I'm not even gonna look. I was like, should I look at what this looks like? No, I want to see it on screen.
No. Yeah, you got to save it. So I would say this in kind of closing about AVP. I think that, you know, it's like when we're talking about like Metroid or Zelda or something like that, and you start talking about games like Federation Force or like Cadence of Hyrule or something like that. Like you can't rate them the exact same way that you would rate the main series, and I think that rule of thumb applies to this movie as well. So I kind of was like, listen, like, does this movie have some weak spots? Yes. Like, I think that it's missing like a star and or like good characters that you actually kind of care about. I think that it's missing like really good like death scenes. I think the lighting kind of stinks sometimes and some other flaws. But I mean, like, I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm just like, it's fun. It's different. It doesn't like ruin or contradict the main series. Why not? You know, why not?
Yeah, it doesn't. You know, it exists as its own thing. I think it's called. It delivers on Alien versus Predator, and then it has a like a schlocky fun storyline that I actually kind of like. I agree with like the only like those other things aside, those little things I complained about. The only thing that I think would make it better is if like some of the cast. Yeah, it was like a little bit more fun, but that would, you know, like I said, I kind of understand what the situation is here. Yeah,
I mean, you know, it's too bad, but it's not like I feel like you'd have to really go in with like a bad frame of mind to like not enjoy most of this movie, even if you're just like sitting there eating your popcorn and only half paying attention. Like, I think that's kind of all you need.
If you're going in and watching this movie, you're already weird. You're weird because you want to watch this movie. So you might as well enjoy... You should enjoy the weird movie. You know, like, let's not act like we're above it or anything. You know what I mean? We're not above this. No. It's goofy. It's... Yeah, I don't know. It's not prestige. It's goofy schlock, which is what our boy Paul delivers to us. And
sometimes you need that, man. Sometimes you need it.
I think it's fun. I was cackling. I was also clapping. You know, I had both. I was excited and laughing. You know, it made me think of we'll talk about this more later, but Doom. It made me think of Doom, which is both so awesome yet it's so goofy. You know, it's so silly, and yeah, I don't know, I loved it.
Yeah, it's it made me really excited for AVPR. Like, I want to see it taken to an even more insane level. And
Hopefully.
I love Alien, I love Prometheus, I love Covenant, I love Aliens, I love all the like serious and philosophical themes of those movies. But man, sometimes you just want to see a big old alien and a big old predator just butting heads, you know? Like,
yeah.
There ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it doesn't lessen Alien. You know, Alien's always going to be Alien. You know.
Yeah. I think like some spin-offs. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but like some video game spin-offs are like so legitimately terrible that they kind of lessen like the main series a little bit.
Especially if that's all you're getting. And I guess I could see in 2004 if you're like, you know, if you're like, oh, this is what's next. Like, this can't be what's next for the Alien franchise. But I think even at that point, off the last two movies with how they were received, and I even like 3 and stuff. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's...
I'm not saying like just a hard reboot or something like that. And like...
Which I think would... Like, if you're watching this, you know it's probably going to come eventually. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so
I'm not saying you should just accept any old garbage by any means, or you shouldn't be critical. Like, I definitely think you should, but I think, like,
I think that this movie was like a jump start, like to both franchises. Like we said, like I think Alien versus Predator and AVPR for that matter, not ever going to be like the most critically loved films of all time. Maybe not even going to be like the most like beloved by the fan base, but I think that you can't argue the fact that like both Alien and Predator as franchises were better off after these movies came out.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, I think at least this one. I think like I said, I think AVPR like seems like it had such of a negative thing that it did kind of. But then again, like then it was like, okay, let's get back to I remember we'll talk about the hype for Prometheus, but I feel like even I wasn't like super into Alien at that time beyond like I like the old ones, like, but the actual like hype for like that was like intense. And I think, you know, you could maybe make an argument if like no other Alien movie came again, no one ever cared again, but I don't think that would have been possible, you know?
Yeah.
And also, like, who cares? I don't know. Like, they could never make, for me personally, they could never make an Alien movie again, and that would be fine by me, because, like, I don't care about it for the franchise. I care about each one for its own specific reason and why it connected with me, you know? So, like, I don't need there to be another one, but that's a whole different topic, you know?
I agree. Alien in Review will return in probably the near future, probably another little bit before our next installment. But the next installment is AVPR, and I'm fired up about that. I can't wait. In the meantime, if you enjoy these episodes, as I hope that you guys do, you can check out Goo and I over on Virtual Theater. It's our podcast where we talk about video game movies and the stories that shape them. We got tons and tons of episodes over there for you to check out. And not just video game movies either. We did like The Matrix, we did John Wick, we've done a lot of other different stuff over there. So if you're not just limited to just that. In fact, we actually, if you really want to go hardcore, we have a short episode. It's not going to be as in depth as when we get there on Alien in Review, but we have a short episode on Prometheus in our Patreon, which you can sign up for $1. So throwing that out there for you. But yeah, you can check us out at Virtual Theater X and then Virtual Theater Revigare Podcast. Goo, thanks for gracing us today with your analysis, your thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It's always a pleasure. Yeah, it's cool. Okay, we are going to get out of here. Of course, we would love for everybody to check us out over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Omega Metroid Pod, at Spiteri316, at Gooey Fame, at Flashback64 as well. Give that a follow, which I I think you're on Blue Sky for sure. It's Flashback 64 on Twitter, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, on anywhere if you search Flashback 64, sometimes there's pod in there. That might just be. I don't know. We're on everything.
Go find it. It won't take much to find it. Okay.
It's not hard. We have like a link tree somewhere where you can click on all the things.
That's professional.
Yeah.
All right. Well, check out Omega Metroid wherever you get your podcasts. Like, subscribe, recommend, rate, review, all that fun stuff. If you got a Metroid fan in your life, tell about the Omega Metroid podcast. We're doing this every single week. OmegaMetroid.com has all of your Metroid guides and news and thought pieces and maps and you name it, it's there. Great place for Metroid fans to check out, learn a little bit about the series. Of course, we're also over on Patreon, as I mentioned. We got the Great Metroid Area Ranking going on, which is, of course, a riff on Gooey's Dungeon Dive, which is, again, much appreciated. So make sure that you check that out. And with that, my friends, we are out of here, but we'll see you back here next week. Take care.